Welcome everybody back to an episode of our Velocity Sellers podcast. I am your host, Velocity Pete. Today we have a episode that we like to film before these big events like Prime Day, like Black Friday. This one is specifically to Prime Day. We just got the big announcement, to start out the episode, that Prime Day this year is going to be 4 days long. It's going to be July 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. So double the days, double the deals was their little tagline. We're going to get into this. We're going to get also into what you should be looking out for on the day of the event, or the days of the events, singular, plural days, singular event. And we're also going to talk a little bit more about the strategy you should be looking for afterwards, as well as we approach the back half of the year. So I'm excited to get into it with two of our favorites on the show, James and Eric. Gentlemen, thank you both for always being willing to hop onto these very important episodes. Probably one of the more important segments that we do is the preparation for these big holiday deals. But I appreciate you always being willing to jump in here and do this with me. So
yeah. So I guess like the biggest thing that we want to kind of address right out of the gate, right, is the 4 days. 4 days is huge, right? Now, this is going to be the first time that Amazon's ever done it. There is not really any information on it. There's just no historical data, right? We have no idea if it's going to be good, bad, whatever. Is it going to be hot like normal Prime Day, where that first day is,
right,
smoking hot, yeah,
right.
and then the second day is a little bit lackluster compared to the first day, right? So are we going to see kind of that downtrend through the 4 days, or maybe Friday is going to be big? I do know some of our partners do better on certain days, which is odd. Some of our partners do really, really great on Sundays. Some have been doing really great on Tuesdays. So I'm interested to see if like that 4 days will transition to some of the patterns that they already have, or if this is just going to be kind of a new thing. Or maybe because it's going to be 4 days, maybe people will be like, well, I'll just do it a little later. I'll do it a little later. And then they miss it. So it's going to be quite interesting. So like that's the biggest change for this year. So if you guys have a hot item, a very desirable item, hopefully you have enough inventory to have that 4 days. The worst thing that you can do is kind of like sell out. I know everybody's like, oh, it's a great problem to have, but you also want to make sure that you have that BSR in mind. As soon as you sell out, your BSR starts to kind of plummet. So you got to be kind of mindful of that. And it's going to be up to you and what your strategy is. Maybe you just want to make as much money as possible and forget the BSR. That's fine. It's fine strategy, but just kind of keep that in mind. If you're selling hot for the first 2 days and you might run out of product, maybe you want to just shut off your sale for the 2 following days. Maybe you only have your margin budgeted for the 2 days. So you kind of want to be just eyeballing that, checking your cost, and all that good stuff, and then just be ready to pivot and react. James, what are your thoughts on that, on the 4 days?
Well, I want to take a step back even further. If your product isn't in receiving or in transit to Amazon, you could better forget the Prime event.
Yep.
Right? But yeah, good point, Eric. Yeah, we're in uncharted territory. Is there cannibalization going to happen with the Target Plus of the world, the Walmart of the world? Because they're going to have the same event happening, right? It's going to be a battle of the fittest, where you're going to have the most inventory, right? Available for FBA, the 2-day or 1-day Prime available, I think is going to shine if you don't have WFS or your product in at the other marketplaces, right? Because ultimately people want that particular product right away, enjoy their Prime membership and actually utilize that Prime membership. One thing I thought was super cool, I'm going to try something a little bit different during this Prime event as a customer.
Okay.
Is we just got a distribution center built near us, near the house, and we're starting to get same day delivery. And it is super cool. If it's not same day, next day delivery is, man, I'm telling you, that is, if as these DCs are getting built, man, that is going to be crucial for me, because I might want to take a trip. I might want to impulse purchase and want that product in my hand that day. Imagine having being being a male, I'm usually late or have the last minute to make the decision on buying a gift for my loved one.
Right.
Right. So it would be nice to all of a sudden be late and then all of a sudden go, I can get that delivered in 3 hours. Boom. Right. So, come on, guys, we can do it.
And Eric has been enjoying
But
that life for a little bit. I know Eric's got the big
yeah,
distribution center up there. So,
yep. I think there might be actually 2 now. But
oh, wow.
on like a lazy Sunday, I know I'm gonna just be lazing around.
Right.
I'll put an order in at 10 a.m. just for a bag of chips. I'm that guy
Yeah.
that the bag of chips comes to my
Why
house.
not?
Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad you're able to enjoy the close distribution center. But
Finally.
yeah, for sure. But what I was kind of like when you were kind of talking about it, I don't know why this popped in my head, but like be careful when you guys are kind of setting up, like getting like ramp up to this.
Right.
You're gonna be seeing window shopping.
Yep.
So during that window shopping, you might want to pull back some ad spend because most people, well, now that the dates are announced, people are just gonna be kind of like prepping and kind of gearing up. I know I do.
Right.
I'll kind of be like, hey, even right now, I'm like, I'm almost out of garbage bags. I'm not going to buy them because I know somebody's going to have garbage bags ready, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to be just kind of poking around, throwing stuff into my cart, and then hopefully when Prime Day hits, I can just hit the buy button and we're good to go. So just for just a heads up, you might start seeing a lot of clicks with no conversion. Don't panic. It's just that kind of time of year. Maybe just kind of dip your daily spend a little bit, but I'm gonna leave that up to you guys as if you're managing your own campaigns. Just be mindful of that. If you're just starting to freak out and you're like, this keyword usually is good and now it's not, just be mindful
Right.
that's a thing.
Good point, Eric. Just to piggyback off that, this also might be a good time, even though you might be on certain products enrolled in an event during Prime. The lead up to Prime is also a very good way because, like Eric said, everybody's window shopping, but you can capitalize on an impulse purchase. Let's say there's a 20% discount markdown sale or coupon or 30% coupon right now. You could capture that impulse purchase, get your sale, and move along. So that could be, if you're testing as well, this is a good time to test. Run a promo, see if you have a little higher rate of conversion. Then maybe to run promos in the future, the 2 weeks before the actual Prime event.
Right.
Because this is definitely when window shopping is happening, for sure.
Yeah. And the buildup will be very interesting. Buildup and the fall off. Not the fall off, but the few days before and after will be interesting now because it's, I believe, I just checked earlier today. I believe it's 8, 9, 10, 11 are a Tuesday through a Friday. So then you have the weekend shoppers and you've got the weekend before, the week after, and all that kind of good stuff. So it'll be very interesting to see how this 4-day Prime Day affects all the other things surrounding the event and what people either take into consideration or don't take into consideration. So I'll be very
Well,
curious to see about that.
yeah. And what's interesting too about this is like not only do we have a 4-day event, we also had some tariff situations for some partners, right? So your product may or may not be caught double the cost this year, and maybe you're not able to participate in the deeper discounts. Whatever that is on your end. So you have to kind of check your margin. So on Amazon to do a Prime exclusive discount, you need to be at least 20% off. Well, if you could only do 10%, like what James is saying, you could start running that early
Have it now.
and sort of try
Yeah.
to beat that rush to get that impulse buy. Because then let's say if you can do 15, but you can't do 20, you run that 15 before Prime, your competitor might run a 20. Maybe you'll kind of sneak some of those sales before they get to them. Or like even James is saying, there's people going on trips all the time. It's 4th of July.
Right.
Maybe you try to capture some of those, like the James type
I
personality.
need this now.
Who's a little late to the
Last
game. Last minute, you could give them kind of a hot deal. I mean, you could run that 15% off from July 1st all the way through Prime if you want. You could run it a couple days before, shut her down, see how you go without having a sale, then do another sale right after Prime to capture those. Or if you're going to be running a 20%, like let's say your margin's perfect for Prime for that 4 days, your inventory, everything is aligned perfectly. You pre-planned this whole thing. you are all set up for success. You do a great job on Prime Day. Well, now after Prime Day, you can set up, brand brand tailored promotions for another 10% cart abandonments, or you could do a 15% off sale, or carry that 20% off sale right afterwards. So get some of those residuals that, in this case that we're kind of talking about, like, oh, Prime Day is 4 days this year. I got 4 days to make that sale. And then all of a sudden, oh crap, Saturday, I missed it.
Right.
I know I did that. I'm like an idiot. I did that for the Prime Big Spring sale. I missed that entire thing because I was like, oh, I'll get to it. And then I missed it. So there's all sorts of different strategies that you can kind of do. And then also to kind of piggyback with what James said, if you're on Walmart, be mindful of that. Walmart is going to try to tank Amazon.
They're going to have theirs the week before, like July 4th week, probably.
Well, they do sometimes do that, or they'll do it 2 days before.
Yeah, that weekend.
So then your Amazon listing will go down for 2 days leading up to Prime, which is going to be bad for you.
Very.
Could set you up for failure there.
Right.
Not catastrophe, but that 2 day
bad
of window shopping you're not going to get. And then I do know that Walmart, I think they've been doing it for a little bit over a year now. They do have in their spreadsheets a column for your ASIN. So Walmart wants to know what ASIN you have on Amazon, so it can purposely tank that listing for these
They're
sale
sneaky.
events.
They're sneaky,
So-
man.
So just be mindful of that if you're on multiple marketplaces.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially for Walmart, again, we have the historic data of them being a little funny. I think it's funny where they put it the 2 days before. I feel like I had the point there, but I feel like, James, you had something as well. It sounded like.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna, tack on to what Eric was mentioning on the overall strategies of that 4 day, or even before or after. Is 20%. 20% is the minimum, like if you're opting in for a major deal. And I think we touched upon this in several episodes ago when we were talking about Prime event or Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I think we were talking about, is the consumer looking for something greater than 20, right? Are your competitors going to run something a little bit more aggressive? Okay. Because right now, like Eric said, everybody's been shocked by the tariffs, right? Right now, there's some of it's been put on hold, so forth. So a lot of partners have ordered their mass amount of stock to anticipate the potential future tariffs. So they're sitting on stock, right? So do you kind of bleed that out and, maybe just hold on to it and just run 20s? That way you have coverage over the next few months, right? Or are you looking for, that instant cash flow, right? Because if you're going 40%, you're going to pretty much, you're going to convert way higher than 20. Obviously,
right, people are going to gravitate
margin
to that. Yeah.
But yeah, let's say your next order is coming up in mid-July and you're looking for cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
Run a 40,
right?
You could almost see double conversion if you run between a 20 and a 40. So
and
you gotta juggle, you gotta test.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I know a lot of my friends after the, I feel like it was last year's Prime Day were complaining, or maybe it was even in October for the big deals day. But they were complaining. They were like, I feel like nothing was very like a huge discount. It was just a normal, like, oh, it's just a random discount that we're going to throw out. But this is supposed to be the big discount day. So you're right. Maybe if people are playing it safe and they're going for the 20, you play a little bit less safe and go for the 25, 30, 40. I guarantee the people that are looking for those big discounts are going to gravitate, like I said, towards your listing. So
yeah. Or a good thing to do is, I know we always look at Prime exclusive. You get the badge, you get everything. However, you could also do some additional promos, quantity tier promos. Buy 2, get an extra 10. Buy 3. So let's say you do run a promo off of your leader, right? Your main product. You got a pretty decent promo going on there. Why not? If you buy 3 of this particular item or 5 of this particular item, get an extra 20, right? Or, try to encourage that AOV increase. So just try different things. But if this is your first Prime event, then try different things. That way you can kind of know more or know better for next event.
Build a
right?
foundation. Yeah.
Well, this is the education series, right? What's working, apply it to the next event. Okay. But you got to try it or you're not going to know it's going to work. Right. And then carry that on to the next event and carry that to the next event. I know this is a 4-day event, so it's uncharted territory. Is Friday going to spike more? Because usually that's a payday, right? Then the midweek, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, done, right? People are like, just always follows like that, right? When we, you want something really good and then all of a sudden you don't have the money for it. You're just like, man. So maybe this is why Amazon's like, hey, we'll just do 4 days. We'll include that Friday.
Could be
Start off good and end good. That would be kind of cool.
I would be interested to see. I want to see the results. I'm hoping they put out like a lot of data on the spread of the days to see, okay, well, Tuesday, usually the first day is the biggest, right? And then we'll maybe see Wednesday and Thursday are like the lows. And then maybe if you're right, like if Friday comes around and the deals will be going all day. So it's not like after you get your paycheck, you can't buy, once you get that, it'll potentially could be something huge. So I would be very interested to see that.
Yeah, the other thing too that you can consider too. So we're talking kind of about a margin, putting things on discount. There's 4 days, pulling back, whatever. Like there's certain strategies. Well, think about this strategy. I got 2 of them for you guys. So what we could do is instead of spending the money on Vine, you deep discount. You kind of take that hit. Let's say like 20% margin is kind of where you're at. Let's go to 30%. 30% is going to probably move more product. Your BSR is going to go down. You're going to get closer to that first page. You're also going to get more potential reviews. So you could just pivot your brain to think, hey, this is going to be maybe a loss leader for this 4 days.
Right.
But I'm going to see the metric, the KPI that I'm going to watch are reviews for the next 30 days after that product's purchased. If you can get if you have 0 reviews, you're going to have a hard time moving any product. But if you have, let's say 5 reviews or whatever, and people are going to buy at that 30%, and at the end of it, if you get 50 reviews, I'd say that's a big win, right? With plus all of those sales, your BSR is going to drop, get closer to the first page. And if you're a desirable product with those new reviews, that organic rank should hold. Then you can start supplementing with advertising, right?
Right.
So there's a strategy there. So instead of just being like, I want to be in the black, I want to make X amount of sales, throw that out the window and say, I want this amount of reviews. I don't care if I'm in the red, because now it's a 6-month play, not a 4-day play. And the other thing that you can kind of think about is that if you can only have margin for 20%, like what happens though if you pull back your ad spend? So if your tacos is at 10, what if you go to 5, and then that would give you 5% that you could go down and discount? Or I've had success in this in the past working with Chris, our directors of advertising. What we did is we cranked up tacos to 20 to 30% for like 60 to 90 days. Then we brought that tacos back down. The BSR shot through the roof because we were getting placed or ranked on certain keywords, those additional keywords plus that organic rank, or excuse me, the ad rank was pushing up to the front. We bring that back down after that 60, 90 days. And it's going to it'll come back down, but it's going to stay. So when we first started, it was here, then it went up to here, then it kind of came down, and then it split the middle, and then we started holding that rank. You can do the same kind of exercise with this by giving it more discount and more tacos to try to get that rank up, or you could kind of pull back rank with a higher discount to try to move that needle to get to, and then your KPI after that will be making sure that your organic rank went up,
right,
or went down or whatever.
Yeah, I think those are fantastic ideas, right? And another one could be, let's say you run a 20% Prime exclusive discount. And I think you alluded to this before, utilizing brand tailored promotions after the event is over.
Right.
Everybody that's abandoned the cart, go ahead and offer them a 40% discount, because you're being a little bit more targeted to the individuals that have abandoned cart. So it's not like everybody gets it and you're losing a lot more margin across the board. Now you're just kind of dangling a carrot at the end of the promotion, and just be like, hey, this is your last chance, 40%. last chance deal. If they don't convert after that, then, but mixing it and trying to see what works, what kind of, mix. Is it a 20% discount, 40%, or is it 30%, 20%? Mix it around and see what every client or every customer is different. Every category is different. What is the buying habits? I think we talked about this before. Does a 5% coupon work better than a $5? Well, a dollar off coupon, which has the higher rate of conversion. You should already be trying these throughout the months, right? Throughout the year, to know what your customers respond to for that particular client.
I absolutely love that idea. What James, they should try this. Like, let's say you go 20% off Prime Day, brand tailored promotion, 25% off for 1 week. Then do a 30% off for the following week, and then just see how that trails, and you get those long tail sales. You could even go up to 35, 40%. I don't know how nuts you want to get, but if you want to get crazy, let's get crazy,
Let's go up to 80. Let's just give it away for free.
Yeah.
Just give it away.
But like you said though, James, like that's the trial and error, like that you can start to see that. So like if there's a conversion, if you get diminishing returns at like 35%, then we know let's go 25% off right away, and then we'll stick with that because you got Prime Big Deal Days. October is coming around the corner. You got Black Friday, Cyber Monday. All of this stuff is going to apply to those. It's a little bit nuanced, a little bit different because it's gift season and stuff like that, but it still should be kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
And then another thought too, before you guys decide what you want to do for that sale, check your competitors. Grab Helium 10 for for 30 days. Use the Chrome extension, go to your main competitor's listing, check the price, what they had last year's Prime Day. They're most likely going to do that this year. And if they're at only 10%, 15%, 20%, or maybe you guys are like, you know what, we better go all in at 30%. Well, maybe your competitor didn't even discount last year.
Yep.
Maybe you only need to do a 10%. You don't want to give away you don't want to give away money if your competitor isn't doing it. You know what I mean? So you don't want to like shoot yourself in the foot by going too deep and losing that margin. So, ideally you want to do all of these experiments and be in the black, but sometimes depending on what your goals are, you're going to have to you might have to be in the red, like we were talking about, like the Vine and BSR approaches and things like that. But there is kind of a nice middle ground where you can kind of experiment with different things, because you don't have to be across the board at 20% off. You can have this group of ASINs at 20, this group at 10, this group at, and then like James said, check which one's working. Do a coupon for $1 off on this group, do a coupon for a percentage off on this group, see if the percentage converts over the dollar. It just really is customer perception. So lots of good options there.
And one really important thing we didn't talk about is that LeBron James is in the new 2025 Amazon Prime Day commercial. This, I think, has a lot of meaning. Anyway, no, the other thing that was actually important that I wanted to talk about was the other piece of this is not only that it's going to be 4 days. The other new piece is, if you saw this, is the today's big deals. So I am wondering if they're going to put out what this is going to be certain deals from big brands are going to be specific to the 4 days. And I'm wondering, you mentioned categories, and I kind of wanted to tie this in there somehow. A nice segue is if they release the certain brands that are coming out and your brand or your product falls into the same category. I think one of the examples is like Samsung or Levi's or any of the other stuff. If your brand falls into the same category as the one of the big brands that's getting featured on today's big deals, do you go higher with your discounts? Do you go lower? Do you try and stay away? Do you compete on the other days? Are people going to be shopped out? That's another thing to have to I think we're going to have to figure out how to navigate. And this is obviously the first year for that. So it'd be very interesting to see what certain brands that are not, top shelf brands, but that are pretty close are going to do to kind of compete with these, again, the top shelf people. So,
yeah, competitive research, like Eric was talking about earlier, mark it down. If you're look what other people are doing, or other big brands or little brands, just compile that information. Helium 10 is a great extension to kind of look at, or even at the event, do a screenshot, right? do some searching on Amazon during these events, screenshot it of your competitors, save it in a folder, reference back, and see how they're positioning especially the bigger brands, because you would think there's a lot more money tied into the R&D of that particular campaign. So if they're running a 20% discount and it's a coupon off, or let's just say it's a coupon and not Prime exclusive, then they've done their research, and that's what their client base has responded to. It's not this fly-by-night, willy-nilly type of scenario, okay? So definitely, I guess flattery, copying is a form of flattery, but ultimately it's having the resources to do the research. If they're doing it, chances are they've done extensive research in why they're doing it. So their why is a little bit more, I guess, more dollars behind their why.
Yeah. And I think you use like Levi's as an example, right? If
Mhm.
like Levi's is like the top guy,
Number
right?
one.
If you're a small guy starting out, Levi's is not your competitor.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like and piggyback on what James said, like do competitor research, check it out. Find the guys that are your size and start chipping away at their pie. You start chipping away at their pie, you start getting a bigger pie, then everybody's going to start trying to copy what you're doing, but you've already moved on from them, and now you're going up to that next level. And so you start just chipping at your competitor's pie at the level that you are. So if you just were like, hey, I'm going to make some jeans, if you go right after Levi's immediately, you're most likely going to fail. Most likely. You just are, right? They have more money than you do. They have
Right, they got more
more
of a budget.
styles.
Yeah.
They have
Brand
everything.
awareness.
Everyone
Yeah.
knows
everything.
Levi's. They've been around for, gosh,
Like 200 years or something
so
like
many.
that, right?
Hey,
So
I have
long.
Levi sitting in my thing that I will never fit in, but I still keep them for some.
Those are
whatever
original.
reason.
Those are original from the
Yeah.
1800s, right? No.
Yeah.
You bought those brand
Thanks,
new.
man.
Yeah.
But
So we've talked about like, and I want to mention this, and I know we're probably running out of time here, but what I want to talk about here quickly though is we've kind of talked about sales and all of that. What we need to talk about is listings. Make
Right.
sure your listings look good. Check for spelling errors. Check for all the bad stuff. Make sure that all of your stuff is consistent. If you have that little section, the product details section right above the bullet points, make sure that is all consistent. Make sure
Right.
that if it's on a variation, it's not showing ounces versus the other metric it could be, fluid ounces, or if it's weight, or if it's pounds, or if it's inches, feet, whatever, centimeters. Make sure all of that stuff is good and consistent. Check Rufus. Type in questions on your own listings. Hey, is this coming this size? If it doesn't have an answer there, you need to fix your listing.
Find it.
You have time right now. It's almost it's less than 30 days. You have time now to kind of get those kind of adjustments. What you don't want to be doing is adjusting that stuff mid sale.
Mid-event.
You're dead.
Yeah.
You're dead, right? So make sure. And then if we are, let's say we're using the jean example, if we are a jean company and you are, don't compete with Levi's, but look what Levi's are doing. I don't have it in front of me, but typically the bigger companies are the lazy companies. Like Levi's probably doesn't have image stacks that are really dope. So you're just going to want to try to find other companies that are in your niche that are in your category that look good, and try to duplicate or do better than them and get that up and ready to go. Because if you're going to be doing a 20% discount, you're going to be pumping money into your ads to push people to your listings. You don't want them to get to your listing and go, I don't trust this brand. You want to make sure that you are tip top, ready to go.
You want to wow
setting
them.
yourself up for sex. Yeah, exactly. You want to wow them, right? What do they say? Your Amazon listing or your website or whatever your e-com experience is, that's what your brand says when you're not in the room, right? So you don't want to have a bad looking brand when you're pushing all this traffic there, right? You got a bunch of butts in the seats, hungry people salivating at the mouth to make, hot deal purchases. Now just give them a reason to do that. Make sure that your value is front and center on that.
Dress for the customer you want, not the one you have. Yeah. Right. So Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for joining me. If you are out there watching and you're freaking out about your Prime Day strategy, book a discovery call. We'd love to help you out and maybe get potentially some stuff fixed up before the day of. We can do our best. We'll maybe edit that out. I don't know. Maybe not. But anyway, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining. I really appreciate you talking to us about Prime Day. I hope you learned something. I definitely learned something. And make sure that you mark your calendars for July 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th for Amazon's Prime Day 2025. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Velocity Pete, and we will see you next week.